Hey yo, what's up? Big Ed here in the Big 26. Today, I'm going to be reading your comments to the Boneworks video published a couple weeks back. First of all, I want to say I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas and a good New Year's. I personally tried weed brownie for the very first time, but that's a story for another time. Really quickly, I just want to say that the response to the video was beyond overwhelming. As of the time of recording this, it's got over 1,600 views and over 40 comments, and that is just, I don't have the words for it, but I am so grateful to everyone who commented, everyone who watched it, everyone who subscribed, everyone who liked it or disliked it. Thank you all for engaging with it, and you know, with that being said, let's just jump straight into these comments. I feel like the NPCs and story mode is better in Boneworks, but the combat and sandbox is better in Bonelab. Bonelab is Gmod, Boneworks is Half-Life. I agree completely. I do see that comparison a lot, especially the Bonelab and Gmod one, but I think part of my issue with that, and I think I mentioned this in a video on the topic of intent, is that no one expected Gmod to be like Half-Life Episode 3. You know, no one expected that. But there was a big expectation for Bonelab to be a sequel to Boneworks. So I feel that the harsh difference in intent and overall product is just, it's nothing else if not staggering. I've never played Boneworks and it already seems like the better base game, especially when 1.7 comes out, or if it even does, lol. Unfortunately, I'm not on the stress level 0 team. I can't tell you if that will come out, but I do think Boneworks is a better base game, and I'll stick by that. But like I said in my video, if you had to get one, like if you only had enough money in the world to get one of them, I would say Bonelab. And the reason why is because of the community, because more mods are being made for Bonelab, and you know, there's even, and I'll throw up a screenshot of this, there's even a mod where you can essentially import the entire Boneworks campaign into Bonelab. That is fucked. Looking back, I was kind of excited about Bonelab, all the cool things people could make, but that's the issue. It's marketed as making mods, which mostly just enhance the experience of an already made game. I feel like it's closer to a game development environment instead. Yes, I agree. I personally, I wasn't a die-hard Boneworks fan. I still love Boneworks, and it's one of my favorite games of all time, no doubt. But I joined the community very late. I think I first played Boneworks in late 2021, early 2022, and Bonelab, I believe, came out around September, October 2022. So I wasn't really along for the hype train. But like I said with the first comment I mentioned, it feels like that difference in intent and how that is reflected in the overall product is just, it's sometimes hard to wrap your head around it. And because they are very different games, like not in the sense where they're functionally different, but I feel like not the overall feel of it, but the overall experience is just different. Just wanted to say at 10 minutes, the story for Bonelab is just the story for Boneworks, but slightly in reverse and with some blends. I never really thought about it that way. Thinking about it now, I can kind of see that point, but it's, you know what, I'll tell you now, I've never thought about it like that. But good point, man. Yes, but in only like one aspect, Bonelab is still objectively better. I'd be curious what you think that aspect is. But I agree that I can see the argument from both sides. If someone says Bonelab is objectively better, I can kind of see why someone might agree with that. But I'd be curious to hear more from people who, you know, are on the opposite end of the aisle, where they say, no, we think Bonelab is the better product. Oh, fuck me, this is a long one. But, you know, the long ones are the best to discuss. My main issue with Bonelab is just how unnaturally strong you are, meaning that you don't really have to interact with its systems, and the game's difficulty is pretty brain dead for the most part. Unlike in Boneworks, because Arthur Ford is so weak, it forces you to experiment and actually interact with it in interesting ways. The best example is in Central Station, where the fence blocks you off from accessing the other half of the level. Now in Boneworks, you actually have to interact with its systems. Unlike in Bonelab, because of the fact you're so unnaturally strong, you can just jump over it, removing a lot of nuance in thought of how you interact with the world. I kind of get that. And I think I mentioned this with the whole fucking Angry Joe bit, where it's like taken from the Anthem video, where it's waves and waves of enemies coming towards you. I don't know why I turned into Donald Trump there. I don't know why, but I agree. And I think that also ties into the overall aesthetic of Boneworks, I think, being stronger, because you do have that more Half-Life, cyberpunk, you know, industrialist aesthetic. I think it does kind of lend itself more to a interactable environment, you know, in Bonelab, because you are constantly shifting environments and aesthetics. I think it is more jarring, and perhaps it hinders the amount of interaction you can have in the environment around you. Honestly, I feel like no other game will be able to beat Boneworks. Everything about the game is perfect. The music, gameplay, and atmosphere are all perfect. I agree. I'll try to show this on screen, but this is my Spotify top 100. As you can see, there's a lot of fucking Boneworks soundtracks. I'll tell you this now. The best OST to listen on a road trip is Boneworks. And kind of Bonelab, but Boneworks has the best OST for car trips. The big pain point is honestly that the modding scene really didn't produce any amazing campaign levels with the new tools. If stress level 0 won't make it, then modders should use the engine as a base for a more interesting campaign. I think it's unreasonable to expect that modders, you know, that are working for free should create their whole, you know, new entire campaign. But without a doubt, there are interesting campaign levels within the modding community. And I'll throw up a couple if you want to go check them out. A lot of them are pretty solid, but a lot of them also suck, you know, and that's because modders aren't professional game developers. They're doing this for free, you know, and it's kind of, I'm not saying you're getting mad at them for making the levels, but it's something, you know, and often something is better than nothing. Bonelab with mod makes it better than Boneworks, but this video is without any community stuff. Boneworks is superior when compared to base vanilla Bonelab, but Bonelab's intent was just to make mods. I'm pretty sure they focus more on mods than the campaign. In the video, he makes a complaint about the themes in Bonelab being all over the place, but it kind of makes sense to be all over the place considering the game takes place all over the void, just not in one place. I'll go through your first point first. I understand the purpose of the intent, but I'd like to go back to the Gary's mod analogy, because take Half-Life Episode 2 and Gary's mod, for instance. You know, there's a clear difference. Like, we know that, like, there are similar, like, IP. Like, obviously, Gmod uses assets from other Valve games, but it's clear that they're not connected. You know, imagine if Gmod had a fucking campaign that was connected to Half-Life 2 Episode 2, you know? What if half the fucking, if it even exists, half the Episode 3 campaign was in Gmod? Then suddenly we look at Gmod in a whole different light, and arguably a worse light. You know, I don't think you can have your cake and eat it. You know, I don't even know if Bonelab would work if we remove the campaign. I'm not saying they should remove the campaign, but I'm saying that there is an expectation when it is marketed as a direct sequel to a different game. And for your second point, sir, I understand that because it is in the void, it jumps all over the place, but just because something makes sense in context doesn't mean that the thing itself is good. And if you think it's good, that's your opinion. And, you know, some of those levels are fun. You know, Street Punch is pretty fun, but I think personally, when you look at it holistically, despite it making sense that you jump around a lot, it is not a fulfilling gameplay aspect. In my opinion, Boneworks isn't better. Bonelab has improved character rig, avatar system, or modding tools, but I think they certainly could have done more, such as adding dismemberment, improving the gun system, finger physics, and better vehicles. You're criticizing Bonelab as a story game like Boneworks when it's clear that Bonelab was made for modding as a sandbox, which for me is more enjoyable, but for you and others it may not, although playing some of the community-made campaigns is still super fun. This is a really good comment. Shout out to you. I agree, you know. I've been mentioning intent a lot because I think when criticizing, you know, a game, a film, a piece of music, I think intent is one of the most important parts of analyzing one of those mediums. But I think now that it has been 3 years, I think you kind of can ignore intent. And certainly, you know, I still play Bonelab. I'll throw up a screenshot of how many hours I have on Bonelab, because it's over 100, I know for that. So I'm not saying that Bonelab is a bad game. I'm just saying that within the framework that is almost set in the player's mind, and that, you know, that framework is subjective without a doubt, but within, I guess, my own personal framework, it falters, it being Bonelab, falters compared to Boneworks. No, you were just salty the campaign is shorter. Oh, without a fucking doubt, I'm salty about that. Is that even a question? Those are just some of the comments. Those were the more points, like the constructive criticism comments. I'll throw up all the positive comments too on screen. Thank you to everyone. The comments were lovely. I feel like 40 fucking years older saying lovely, but they were lovely to read. I intend on making a lot more videos, probably a follow-up to Boneworks Bonelab, maybe discussing a campaign mod. Think about it. Actually, as we're recording this, I just downloaded Shipwreck 64, so I want to play that, and maybe I'll talk about that in the future. But 2026, we're gonna make it the year of that big Ed. Stick around and have fun.